Hello and welcome in to Intercollegiate Conversations. As today we're pleased to be joined by the Deputy Athletics Director at Nicholls, Andrew Kearney's joining us. Andrew, appreciate the time. And I want to just jump right in with you. You've been there with Nicholls for a number of years. Just tell us, how did you first get started working in college athletics? And, how has that path kind of led you to where you currently are?
Yeah, I got to Nichols. I was a men's basketball assistant coach. Didn't never really thought I'd end up here. I thought I was going to coach and teach in high school and loved that idea. It's kind of what I always wanted. I played basketball in college, and there's a very specific moment that something happened that I realized like, hey, I might be able to do this in college. Talked to my coach at the time, and we started talking about those opportunities. Um, I got to Nichols. I wasn't here very long. Due to some connections, I ended up no longer being employed. So it's like it's kind of interesting. I've been here for over 15 years, but I was fired once upon a time while I was here. But I got lucky. I was doing some travel and some different things in the department and had a connection with someone else. And it was kind of outside of the hiring cycle. The coach and I got along well. Wasn't the normal basketball, job opening type situations. And didn't really have an opportunity to get back into it. I took something, I had already started my master's to finish my master's here at Nichols. And then there it was just me being around and available and not really realizing I was young, but I was trying to make sure that didn't happen again, that I always had a job. And I think that was the biggest thing. Whenever we had something, I was there and tried to learn as much as possible. So we went from me being a coach in, I think, less than 3 years, and I took the old NCAA coaches recruiting test in a Fab Five T-shirt to I was oversaw compliance within less than 3 years. So it was a very, very different kind of journey there. And he'd have GAs, interns. A lot of times people in graduate programs would reach out to you that I want to get into compliance. How did, tell me about your journey? And like mine is not the normal journey from someone that works in compliance. So I was day-to-day compliance for about 8 years. We're a smaller staff, and not unlike a lot of other people that have smaller staffs, you have different responsibilities. I worked in tickets for a little bit, and as part of that, had some relationships with donors, people in the community, and so I was still kind of playing an external role after I fell out as compliance because I knew some of those people was help tying some things together, connecting people in the community. So it was very really strange that I was like talking to Chamber of Commerce was the compliance guy, but I wasn't talking anything about compliance. So it kind of a unique role for a while. With Rob Bernardi, a great athletic director, he kind of really trusted me and gave me a lot. And it was my first experience working the head coaching search. 2016 men's basketball, we hired Richie Riley. And that kind of got my brain going and wanting more and more and more and more. And not that long later that year, Matt Rohn, who was our athletic director, went to Eastern Kentucky. He's now at James Madison. He came on board, the same thing. I kind of kept getting, he trusted me as well, more responsibility. When Matt left, our current athletic director, Jonathan Terrell, came in, and JT and I have been great. We had probably a 2.5 hour conversation before he got the job. And it was just like, where are you? What do you kind of see? And it was perfect because we both knew exactly where we were, very open and honest. And, our families are so, close now. And I don't think any of that happens if we don't have that conversation. I don't know if I'm still at Nichols if we don't have that conversation. So I'm glad he kind of forced that. I don't know if I would have, but it's something, to learn in the future, to have those conversations. And as part of that, I became the deputy athletics director, and I do a little bit of everything. Obviously, I've worked in tickets and compliance and academics, and so I kind of oversee a lot of the day-to-day internal stuff, but in terms of operations and getting games up and running, but literally just kind of whatever pops up. And so still, as much external roles as possible, and when all the other stuff is taken care of, and trying to, the big thing is everyone's mind is we need more right now. Everyone needs more. You can have the most and you need more, because of with everything, the house settlement and where we think we're going. I don't know if anyone really knows where we're going, but so that kind of got me to here. And part of what I do, we talked about, that first head coaching search. And so whenever we're going into a search and kind of trying to compile data and see who's out there, who may work for us, has a background that may fit at Nichols, before we have those conversations, I'm trying to collect as much data as possible. And um, Win AD has been the spot, and now with Intercollegiate, it's kind of putting it all together. And really, because I'm kind of doing so many things, it's making that job a whole lot easier for us. And I have to spend less time in trying to go compile the data. It's a little bit more searchable and a lot more friendly for searches, which we're really looking forward to. We hope we never have to hire a coach, but we're not naive enough to think that that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we're happy to hear on that last part. And that's why we like talking to so many different people in college athletics because kind of, as you alluded to, every path is different. There's no one way to get to where you currently are or other people in college athletics are. Let me ask you though, over all that time, throughout all your years in college athletics, how much has things changed? And I'm not talking about name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal and all that sort of stuff, but kind of the behind the scenes, your day-to-day role, the hiring process, the type of people working in college athletics. Have you seen a lot of changes since, when you first started to now today?
Yeah, so I'll probably go back to 2016. That was when I was really kind of getting involved in kind of the world that you're describing. I, I don't when you really kind of strip it down, it hasn't. I mean, you're still looking for the same types of things. Obviously, our university is going to evolve, the NCAA is going to evolve, college athletics is going to evolve. So finding people that kind of fit into that evolution, I think the biggest thing for us is whether it's hurricanes, which we've had to deal with, conference realignment, which a lot of people have had. We thought the Southland was falling apart, and now the Southland is thriving. And we're good with where we are, and we probably there's some institutions that wouldn't mind being a part of the Southland. All that changed. I think the biggest thing for us is that the people here in Thibodaux and the Bayou region, I wasn't um, this flexible. I wasn't this kind of resolute in my ability to kind of stick with things. It's really ingrained in the people here, and so it requires you when you kind of be here to kind of, as we're a regional university to kind of service the region. You kind of find out where we are. So I think that's the biggest thing is we try and find that when we hire people, and because if we need that more than ever. When COVID happened, we had people at other institutions we're talking about, and they're worrying about certain things, and we're like, we're good. We've had to deal with that before. Like it's we can worry about it, but it's not going to help anything. We've been here before. There's a version of this that's analogous that we can figure this out. And so I think that's the biggest thing is this area, whether hurricanes or floods or whatever it might be, we deal enough with that. And when those big stressors kind of come on you, how we kind of all come behind us. And it's unfortunate that you kind of have to go through those things, but it really does teach you a lot and bring a community together. I've loved it. Yeah, like I said, I'm from Michigan originally. I came as a basketball assistant coach, and you think you're going to be somewhere for 2 or 3 years, and I have not been. And so, yeah, I love it here, and I love what the people kind of have taught me and helped. Hopefully, it helps Nicholls as well.
I'll ask you about the school and maybe the community a little more in a moment. But first, what's something that you know now, having worked a number of years in college athletics, that maybe you wish you knew originally when you were first starting out?
The value of listening. I don't. It's something. The same thing. My parents are both educators, and I didn't realize until I was 25, late 20s. How much the importance of education, how much they ingrain that in me. Because you're young and you're just kind of going through life and trying to figure out what you're gonna have for lunch. And so listening. I was talking to. I was in some of our mass communications classes last week, and I'm trying to recruit students to work our ESPN Plus broadcast and get them experience. They get paid, um, real ESPN on their resume. Like this is the best situation. And had a student, one of the professor had a question. It was kind of a leading question, and I said the other thing to do is like you're coming, you're gonna get your camera set up, go sit in the production trailer and listen. Like it's so valuable. Um, every once in a while afterwards, ask a question or two. Like to understand why. I think that for me, I was probably there already, but sometimes just listening, you don't have to say a word. We have one coach. I know I can tell it when he walks in my office. He comes in, shuts the door. He just needs to say stuff for 5 minutes. Um, and that's the role we serve and he leaves. So like just listening and then, taking that and kind of understanding where his program is and where we are. But like just listening. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes people are living in a completely different reality but they just need you to listen. And the value that you really get when you listen, it's the adage, you have two ears and one mouth, use them in that proportion. Like you should probably talk a little bit less. I think that's the biggest thing for people. I think getting into athletics, just listen, just listen. You can learn a whole lot.
Yeah, I think it's a good piece of advice in general, let alone college athletics. You mentioned the community there. When it comes to Nicholls State, I'll give you like an opportunity here for the elevator pitch. I mean, what makes Nicholls State unique? What makes it different? What makes it special? What is it about Nicholls State that you really enjoyed or that people should recognize about that school or even, the athletic programs?
No, and I there's we hired a new baseball coach this summer, Brett Herring, and he was an assistant at BYU, and BYU came. We're lucky we're in the South. We get baseball and softball. We can get some of those early season people, schools that will come and play us because it's being from Michigan, well aware that you can't get outside about early in the season. And we had BYU came down, and he talked about like talking to his wife afterwards, and he mentioned this at the press conference, like, man, I would love to be here someday because of our fans and like how they were getting behind it. And he's like, they were harassing us, but like it's what you want in college athletics. It's like the type of thing you go into the tough environment, what you want. I think that kind of embodies it. There's not a ton of people here. We don't have a huge population. We're about an hour from New Orleans. New Orleans has a whole lot going on. Um, people love Nicholls. We're part of the community. And if you accept the community and kind of assimilate yourself into it, the people love you back, man. So I don't, even people, that have gone on to other positions, they miss that. The food's tremendous. There's enough of that in New Orleans that's all kind of through everything through the Bayou region. So it's, you get to New Orleans, you get to Baton Rouge, you get to Lafayette, all within less than 2 hours, really an hour and a half. There's a lot to do all the time. And I think the biggest thing for us is we provide a whole lot of access. We have Division I athletics right here on the Bayou, and you don't have to go far. We're going to give you a whole lot of access, get closer to the action that you are anywhere else. And I think the biggest for us, probably since 2017, when football started to get successful, we had some other teams that were starting to be successful. It's when you can be a part of that, in championships. We want to, it's kind of funny. My wife was actually in Baton Rouge. She was coming back and she had texted me a few years ago. Hey, are y'all home? 'Cause, my son and I, we won a basketball championship at last game of the regular season. We beat the University of New Orleans, winner take all. We're both tied going into the game. And like the community was just like partying on the floor for like an hour and a half after the game. No one wanted to leave. And I think this really embodies kind of what Nicholls is. Like when it comes down to it, people are always going to be there. I think we kind of go back to, having the hurricanes and the floods and all that, and knowing that you need your neighbor. Yeah, it's the people are tremendous. And that, you can talk about anywhere, university, city, whatever it is, like buildings, trees, they're all great, but it's really the people day to day that really make a place what it is. And Thibodeau Bayou region is tremendous.
We hear that a lot about people in college athletics, how important that community is, and even the culture around the school, the programs, the fans. I always ask people what they should look for to know a school's the right fit. I guess it's a little different for you because you have been at Nicholls for so long. You haven't moved around as much as maybe a lot of people have in college athletics. So I guess what would be your advice to others to look for to know a school is the right fit based off of your time at Nicholls? And it might be what you just mentioned with that community, but what would you suggest for others to look for in a school to know, hey, this is a good opportunity for me?
For me, I would probably be, what do I want? I want to be a part of a community like I have here. Like if that was something I was looking for. We were at a town festival a few weeks ago, like and like we can't go. My wife and our son, we can't go 20 feet without knowing someone and talking to them. Like I love that. You're not going to get that small town feel everywhere. You can get it in bigger cities as well. I think it's just creating that community and what it looks like. The biggest thing is finding out, I think for me, is finding out what's important to you. I think that there are places for people they're tremendous places, and it might not be the right fit. And so really figuring out what those things are depends on where you are in life as well. I came here young and single, and I'm not anymore. And so like those decisions for us, and I'm assuming for other people, when you have family, I've talked to people they've had kids that have had some medical concerns and, where they are. And, so being a little bit more rural is not really a possibility. So really finding out what's important to you. And I think that Zoom is great for stuff like this. It is great for an extra, when we are interviewing, you can get in front of people and see them. And I think it's great, but like there's nothing that can compare the face to face and kind of being in an environment and walking around and the little things, the way people look after something. And I think what level of support do you want? Because I think support can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so where are you going? Or how are you going to be happy? And I think really it's prioritizing what's important to you in that moment. And if this is a 5-year thing, this is a 10-year thing. This is we want to go and we can go here and we know that we can retire here. That type of find out what's important, and really try and sort through what that is. It's funny, I talked about listening earlier, but at that time, it's asking the questions and then doing all the listening. I think and for me, when we have people in interviews, is observing people. Like I said, it's all about the people and observing how those people interact. What's it like across campus? You can tell if athletics isn't liked. Sometimes you can tell if there's a reason why athletics isn't liked. I think it's tough for athletics because we're very different than than the rest of campus. Different timelines, our more frequent events, whatever that might look like. But what's that relationship like across campus? Little things, but it's that for me. If you're not doing the little things right, you're probably not doing the big things right. So it's that attention to detail and where are people. But for me, like if that were to ever happen, I'd have to be on campus and I have to kind of immerse myself in as much as possible to make sure that's right for us.
We're thrilled to have Nicholls as an intercollegiate partner. So before I do let you go, I want to just spend a few moments talking about the hiring process. And you did kind of allude to it earlier in our conversation, but from that recruiting perspective or hiring process, what do you think some of the challenges are that you guys, or just in general, people in college athletics have been facing in recent years when trying to fill positions?
Yeah, it's wild because we had a compliance opening in the spring of 21. The position I was in, we were hiring it, and we had a lot of really, really qualified candidates. A lot. We were coming off the back of a lot of layoffs in the fall of COVID, budgets being tightened, and there were a lot of people. Austin Bonvalet, who we hired in that position, went home to Eastern Washington September of last year, late September. We didn't get someone that applied for that position that had any experience, internship, whatever, until February. About that time, Austin said, "Hey, do y'all care if I come back?" And we were like, "We would love to have you." But that's, in less than 3 years, how much things changed, how many people have gotten out of the industry in general. And that took, I was emailing, "Hey, do y'all know anyone?" Like hundreds and hundreds of email addresses, copying and pasting, going through athletic staff directories. And like, we couldn't get anything. So, that has really changed. Obviously that on the back end of COVID, that was a high point, but like, it's just changed so much the number of people that are out there that want to be in this. You see it with coaches, Tony Bennett, like we talked to other coaches, when they're here, like, this is my last year. Like the NIL, the all of this is not what I got into this for. And it's probably a good decision because like that's not changing. Like we've crossed a threshold and that's here, and you have to be kind of flexible and move forward with it. Otherwise, like, you're just spinning your wheels and putting energy towards stuff that isn't progressing things for our student athletes. So we've been pretty good. I know that's something we look forward with when we hire people. But I think the biggest thing is the number of people that might be willing to kind of work in athletics that don't, it's hard. I think people, I got into it earlier. I said, I was willing to do everything. I was working a lot. And to where I think nowadays when you get people breaking athletics, like I'm not doing all that. But like, I'm not here today without it. I don't know and talk to as many people and listen, try and figure out what matters to people. without all that. And so I'm glad. I wouldn't have got that experience probably anywhere else but Nicholls. And so I'm really appreciative that it happened here. But I think that's the biggest thing for me is that the number of people that are, for one reason or another, whether, like I said, it's the changes in the industry or societal changes in general, to kind of come in and really willing to put the work in to kind of get where you want. And so when you find those people, it's really trying to take advantage of them. Not say that. Take advantage of having those people. I really appreciate where they are and trying to put the right things around them. Because if you don't show that appreciation, I think it does lend itself to they do feel taken advantage of. Someone once suggested that to me at one time because of all the stuff I was doing. I was like, why don't I want to be here? Like, why wouldn't I want to be at the games? I understand I'm, the 9 to 5 during the day as well, but this is what I love to do. So, it's really, I think that's the biggest thing, finding someone that loves this. Because if you don't, it can become a lot. It can become a lot real easy.
Yeah, that's one of the common themes we've been hearing from a lot of people. And another thing we've been hearing a lot, and you also kind of touched on this earlier, just the benefit of having everything in one place when it comes to intercollegiate. Can you just speak to, you already did a little bit earlier, but just digging a little more into that, can you speak to how beneficial that is as a tool to have everything in one place?
Yeah, and it's all the same data that was in Win AD. It's all the same data. But intercollegiate, the how it's compiled makes it a whole lot easier. And so for us, whether I have to go run Ethernet cable later today because we had something that broke and we got to get ready for a women's basketball game tonight, or I got to go meet with IT in our to fix some stuff in our broadcast trailer, or I'm meeting with some people about donors, whatever. All that takes time, and it's hard. So the nice thing about Intercollegiate, it pulls it all for you. That's very, very sortable. I think that's the easiest. The data was all there in Win AD. And we were working with people and kind of getting demos and how can we do this. I suggested one thing, and that we've actually heard that from a few people. We're going to try working on it, and it was basically like a 6 degrees of separation, but less than that. Like John Doe works somewhere else. Oh, I didn't realize that he and Jane Smith work together. I really trust Jane. We have a connection. Let me call about this. And so that's something else, Intercollegiate. I was like, that would be tremendous. But that may have taken me 45 minutes to get to. And if it's right there, there's already the little face icons on there, the people that they may know them a little bit at that institution. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. The data was there. It's just so much quicker now. And like I said, we met with our head coaches last week and showed them, and they're really excited to know this. I said, hey, if you're going through this, let me know, and we can try and find some information. There's also the salary information, which sometimes you just, off the bat know, like, okay, great candidate, but this might not be the right fit for us. Or how do we kind of get there? We need a little bit extra to incentivize that. And sometimes that is trying to find additional funds. Sometimes it's giving more responsibility or something that they may not get somewhere else. And that's something that we try and do a lot here. Like I said, I had the unique opportunity to that. I wouldn't have got some of those responsibilities as quickly as I did elsewhere. So yeah, it's all the information is now in your hands instead of still got to look for them a little bit. That's the biggest thing for us, is just saving a whole lot of time. And we're excited about.
Yeah, and we're excited to be a partner as well. I guess that answer, I was going to ask you one last question. That kind of answers it, but I will ask you anyways. Just the benefits you're excited out of Intercollegiate Recruiter. I guess as you just said, it is that time saving measure, right, of helping you out because in college athletics, obviously you guys are so busy. So just the ability to help save time, huh?
Yeah, save a lot of time. And I think the other thing for us is that you want your job posted somewhere. It's going to cost several hundreds of dollars, and depending when you get through hiring cycles, you're like, we spent $1,200 on this. Start thinking about over the course of a year what that can mean for your student athletes. And Intercollegiate, they pull straight from our HR website. We don't have to worry about that. It's there. And so the more institutions that use it, the more people are looking. That's not, that's that financial burden is something that we can turn back to our student athletes. So another benefit that day to day we might not see, but adds up over time. Another great benefit.
A big thank you to Andrew Kearney, the Deputy Athletics Director at Nicholls State University, for joining us in this edition of Intercollegiate Conversation. And a big thank you to you as well for taking the time out to watch the video. We ask that you please subscribe to our YouTube page so that you don't miss any of our future conversations or content. And we also suggest you check out intercollegiate.co. It's the most comprehensive job board out there for college athletics. Until next time, life is just a series of hellos and goodbyes. For now, we say goodbye.